Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast. For those of you that are in other parts of the world, you can see the set looks a little bit different this week. And it's purely because on the 26th of January here in Australia, we celebrate our National Day, which is called Australia Day. So I thought we'd have a little bit of an Australia Day theme going on behind me. And yes, that is an Australian version of Monopoly. It's actually a Gold Coast version where I'm from. So I only just recently purchased it. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but Monopoly is actually one of my favourite games. And I think it's one of those games that's really good to teach the younger generation the value of money and how quickly you can sort of rise and fall in a matter of moments with your finances. So it's a very educational tool, in my opinion. So let's get the show moving along. For those of you that are very first-time viewers here on the A1R Psychic Radio on Moonstruck TV network, we'd like to welcome you here. We do this every week. It's my 96th show, so I'm really excited that we're nearly heading to the 2-year mark. So to kick the show off, as we always do, I feature a featured simply tarot card of the week. And this week it's really apt because it's the card called the Moon. And the reason why I'm saying it's apt, a little bit later in the show, we'll talk about the full moon in Leo, which is happening at the moment, but the Moon card is the Moon. It's a card that represents deception or delays, emotions up or down, maybe deceiving yourself or others. Now, it's a fairly ambiguous card when you look at its emotions. It can be emotions that are positive or negative. Are we deceiving ourselves or others by not necessarily looking at things, I suppose, squarely or being truthful with ourselves about the things that are going on? And it's one of these very difficult cards when you're first studying the tarot that you sort of don't quite understand where it really sort of falls and what does it mean. Well, it means in a tarot spread, look at what's around it, because the moon actually absorbs the energy of everything else that surrounds it. So if the cards around it are positive, then the moon takes on a positive energy. If the cards around it are not so positive, then the moon amplifies that we really need to delve below the surface. We really need to be being very honest with ourselves. We really need to look at what's going on. And you can see, you know, there's the two wolves there howling at the moon, and we've got the scorpion in the water, and we've got the two pillars in the background, and we've got, you know, the face of the man in the moon. It's actually one of my favourite cards because it means that we are emotionally right on target for where we need to be. So let's get to the full moon eclipse in Leo. Now, look, my inbox has been full. Everything that could be possibly full this week has been, with people asking me, Amanda, how's this going to affect me? Why is it people writing it about as a super blood moon? What does this mean? And people really hitting the panic button with it. Look, we have a super full moon at this time every year. It's not anything that's abnormal or unusual. It's just because I think we get so much more information out there now in the form of social media that people that haven't been in astrology, like I have most of my life, sort of think it's a big deal. Yes, it is a big deal in a certain sense. It just means that the moon is a little bit closer to Earth than it is at any other time in the year. And the redness comes from at the particular time of the year where we see it being sort of more a blood moon or a red moon, as some people like to call it. It doesn't really give it any extra magical powers because it's a blood moon than it does anything else. It's sort of more about, it is the time of the year when the moon is very full. It's in the sign of Leo. Now, anytime we have anything connected with Leo, it's very proud, dramatic. It takes everything to a world stage. So everything around this moon is done in a very proud, dramatic, let me make an entrance sort of way. And because it's a super full moon, what it basically means is everything is amplified. Everything's a little bit more full than normal. And this is where we start to see around the world king tides or massive tides with the pull of the water. And I know here on the Gold Coast, every January we have a king tide. It's as if they make such a fuss in the media as if it's the first time it's ever happened. But it happens every year, and it happens twice a year, actually. So it's not anything that's, you know, to get too excited about. It just means take a little bit of extra care and move your vehicle out of the road of the rising water. So if we look at what an eclipse means, now that throws it into a whole totally different category, because any time that we have an eclipse, it means that something is ending, and it usually means it's ending in a dramatic sort of way. It's something that you can't escape. It's not something that you're going to breeze through and say, oh, well, I didn't notice anything different. Some people won't notice anything different, but for those that do, it will be something that you can't mistake. I like eclipses because to me it's sort of like clearing things out. It's like clearing out all the old emotions. It's like clearing out things that are no longer necessary in our lives. And some people sort of say, oh, my emotions have been all over the place. I'm more argumentative than I normally am. I have less patience with people. People don't seem to be listening. And no, Mercury's not retrograde. It's just people are just so preoccupied with their own emotional self and where their head's at and what they need to achieve and what they need to look at, that they're basically not listening to anybody else. And that's what it amounts to. Everybody's sort of full of their own self-importance at the moment. So a full moon eclipse in Leo to me means this. This is the time, if you really want to start something new and you need that little bit of extra drive, that little bit of extra push to get noticed, this is the time to sort of put yourself out there. It may not necessarily be the time to go and knock on the door of the boss's office and say, hey, what about a pay rise? Because he might just think you're being a bit, presumptuous, and he's certainly not going to give you one. But if you're starting new ventures or you need to kick a new business off the ground or you're looking at new ideas, now is the time to take notice of this. It is a time where some people will be very incredibly restless. Other people will have the great epiphany moments where things that have been rolling around in their head for a long period of time, finally they get the answers and they can put things into boxes and categories and put them up on the shelf and say, well, I've now dealt with that. Other people will feel this incredible energy that, like I can't sit still, I can't sleep because I've just got so many ideas running around in my mind. And is it the time to start something new? I'm not sure, but it certainly can be the time to start new things. And it's a time when I think you really need to listen to your own inner voice. Take not too much notice of what other people are telling you that they think you should be doing with their lives, because they should be really focusing on their own lives this year. This will be the last lunar eclipse for this year. So it can sometimes coincide with things coming out of nowhere. And it's the time when you might look at things that are sort of being presented to you. And look, the lunar eclipse, normally we say a moon cycle goes, in my opinion, for 7 days, 2 days on the approach, 3 days of the moon and 2 days on the decline. And the full moon is actually on the 21st. For here in Australia, that was yesterday. But for you guys in the Northern Hemisphere, you're just starting your full moon eclipse cycle. For those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, some of them you will be able to see the actual eclipse of the moon. We won't be able to here in Australia. So it can be a time when take notice of things that might be offered to you at this time, because sometimes these are karmic or heaven sent. These are things that you've worked diligently for in the background, and all of a sudden the door flies open. For those people that may be Leos or have the moon in Leo or have a Leo ascendant, this is a very, very powerful moon for you. So please take the time to work with the energy of this moon. Be very aware of what is being offered to you at this time. And quite often there will be a number of answers there that put pieces into a jigsaw puzzle that have been years in completion. So it's a time when you can really let go of the past and sort of forge your way forward for the new you and the new opportunities that are coming your way. So because we focus so much this week on the new moon, the full moon in Leo, I'm not going to talk to you about a famous person in astrological sense, because I felt it was more important to focus on this moon cycle. Plus, the other little thing that I would like to touch on before we take our first caller, this is the first time for a very, very long time we don't have any planets in the zodiac going what's known as retrograde or backwards for the moment. Everything is direct, so it's full throttle ahead for the 8 planets and the 2 luminaries. That includes the sun and the moon, full steam ahead. And it's a time of action. It's a time when we can get a lot of things done. It doesn't matter what your star sign is. It's the time to sort of put everything into high gear and let's go, because there really is no obstacles or obstructions in your way other than the ones that you're placing there yourself. So having said this, this may also bring about full throttle around the world with different political agendas and people sort of jockeying for position and trying to put their place in history as they were the greatest leader of all time, or whatever the case may be. So be aware for that too. There's going to be a lot of stuff on the world stage with a lot of political leaders out there strutting their stuff and thinking they're just so goddamn important that the rest of us mere mortals can't come anywhere near close to them. So make allowances for that. If you're going to a political rally or listening to a speech or watching something on social media or some form of media, make sure that you look at it with very open eyes, because let's strip back the drama and the theatrics and the stage performance. What are they actually telling us? What is the real truth here? So there's a lot of things to be gained at the moment. It's a very powerful time of the year. I know we've just had the beginning of the year, and for those of you that like New Year's resolutions, that's great. For me, I like New Year's intentions. It's a time when we can really start to thrust that forward. So before we take our first caller, we do have to talk quickly about the candles. So this is the fire sign candle. This is the one for the moon in Leo. So we would write our list of the things that we want to release and the things that we want to attract to us, popping it underneath the candle, the list underneath the candle, read it out aloud. As you go to light your candle, you'll find that these candles, the extra large ones, have 2 wicks. So I like to burn 1 wick one day and 1 wick the next day. It just gives you a longer burn time. Please make sure that you always place your candle on a coaster, never directly on the furniture, because the candle itself, the glass container gets hot, the soy wax doesn't. So, of course, it's the full moon time of the year, so we'd be burning our full moon candle as well. Write an identical list for that, following the same sort of rules, popping the candle on a coaster, and, again, the dual wick system there so that you can see that we get a longer burn time out of that. So we need to burn our candles between 15 minutes to 2 hours a day for the 7-day period. For those of you that don't have big space and want a smaller set of candles, this is our travel kit, and it's got, in this one this week, I've got 2 fire sign candles and the full moon candle in the middle. You can choose any 3 from the 28 in our range, so you can make up this kit. These candles will burn for approximately 15 hours, as long as you don't burn them under a draft and open window. Keep them away from children and pets. Very important. For those of you that don't want to burn a candle, but you still want to work with the magic of the soy, these are melt warmers. These are electric. You can plug them into your PowerPoint. They've got a little button on the side that you turn it on. It's got a little tray on the top. So when you first start using your melt warmer, I want you to take about 2 teaspoons of soy wax out of your candle and place it in your melt warmer. You can put your melt warmer on for the whole time that you're home. So it's quite easy to have one of these going in the office or at home on the dining room table, of course, away from children and pets. And this is a safer alternative to burning candles. Now, these retail in Australia for around about $15 at your local department store or supermarket, probably a little bit cheaper overseas. So I change the wax probably once a week as I'm working with the new energy for the week that I'm working with. If you're in a warm climate, just pop your little tray in the freezer for a couple of minutes, then get a plastic knife and run it underneath the soil, wash it out with hot soapy water, and then dry it, and then you're ready to start again. The reason I do that, it's just easier to get the soy wax out. So let's go to taking our very, very first caller, which is Kim in Franklin Square in New York. Are you there, Kim?
Yes, I am. Hello, Amanda. How are you?
Hi, sweetie. How can I help you? Do you have a question for me?
Yes, I do. I need some insight as to my marriage. With my Leo.
With your Leo, no wonder you're asking the question. I'm sure he's been a little bit difficult recently to sort of understand, but that's okay. I mean, we all have those times of the year. Doesn't matter what star sign you are, but for you, I feel at the moment with the marriage, Kim, you seem to be going through what I would call a readjustment period. It's sort of almost like both of you are sort of sitting there at opposite ends, sort of saying, I don't understand the other person. Now, look, I'm not saying that that's not true, but what I'm saying is I think we need to sort of sit down and redefine what the marriage means to both of you. There's many times there where you feel your husband is sort of shutting you out. It's sort of as if you feel like he's in an exclusive club for himself and you're just sort of like the outsider looking in. And I'm not saying that that's not true. What I'm saying is he is self-absorbed at the moment and he is trying to sort things out. And because he hasn't got it straight in his mind, he's unable to sort of share that with you. And I feel it's not just a recent situation. I think this has been going on for about 2.5 years, and it's progressively getting worse. And you're sort of looking at it and thinking, well, how much longer is this all going to hold together? Because we just don't seem to have that spark anymore that we once upon a time had. I don't believe the marriage is over. What I do believe is we've got to find new ways of putting some sparkle back into this marriage. And partly that can be that, okay, you can't sort of make him talk if he doesn't want to talk. I don't believe anybody can force somebody else to have a conversation if they're not ready to. But what I think he can do is try and encourage that in sort of ways about, instead of sort of, what's wrong, you don't talk to me, all those sort of things, which only gets people more, defensive. Mm-hmm. Let's look at other things like, not even bombard him with how your day was and how the children were and all that sort of stuff. Let's look at some fresh new things. Oh, I came across this today. I thought you might be interested, like it might be something that he might have shown an interest in. Or that might be a nice club for us to join, or this might be a nice vacation we could sort of take. Let's sort of try and put some sparkle back there in a way that there's no great pressure. I feel even though he's a Leo, your husband, he's very introverted in lots of ways. And I think that's becoming more obvious as he matures. It's sort of like he doesn't sort of open up and give much of himself, does he?
No.
But I think that's always been there, Kim. I think it's more noticeable now than what it was. It's always been part of who he is. It's just you're sort of feeling it's becoming more so. I think he's also a little bit fearful that he might say the wrong thing and therefore that could cause the end of the marriage. So he's sort of living in a bit of fear. And it's like, well, if I don't acknowledge it and don't give it any energy, it won't happen. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'll pretend it's not happening. But I think if we can try and get some communication flowing again, which I feel we will, I feel that then the marriage will sort of rebound back the other way. Has he mentioned to you about he's not happy with his job? Because I see a lot of question marks around the job, and I also see question marks around where the two of you are living. So I do feel that there could be a job change for him before the middle of the year. That will certainly make him happier. But I also sort of feel he feels that it's time for you guys to get a new place to live. He sort of feels that this one that you're in it's done its job. It's like we need a fresh start. So does that make sense to you?
Yeah, he's actually retired and backwards moved from Florida to New York. And He's not very happy here. And
no, he's not.
We were thinking in a couple of years to go back to Florida.
I don't know that I'd be leaving it for a couple of years. I think I'd be sort of bringing up the conversation now. And I truly think that he needs to be doing something with his time. I don't think he's the sort of man that just, retirement is a good thing, but I think he also needs something to do. I think he's bored.
Yes, he is bored.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Maybe we can bring up some conversations like that about, something that maybe we could do together. Whether or not it produces an income is not what I'm trying to focus on at the moment. What I'm trying to focus on with you, Kim, is giving him something to make him feel worthwhile. He feels like he's been put out to pasture. And if you make an income out of it, well, terrific, but that's not the major objective. It's about giving him his self-worth back. And he sort of feels like he's a liability to you, and he's not.
Well, he does have some issues that are main problems in our relationship.
No.
So maybe that's why that's coming across.
Probably, yeah, because they only share with me sort of limited information for me to be able to talk about here on air. But that was what was going on in his head, that he felt like he was a liability to you, that he's preventing you from getting on with the rest of your life. And that's not exactly true. I mean, each stage of our lives, we go through different things, whether it's health issues or whatever as we get older. It doesn't mean that we necessarily want to be without that person. It's just an adjustment. And I truly don't think he's happy with where you're living. And I think that's probably the major core piece behind his mood and his lack of communication.
So do you see us eventually being happy together?
Yeah, I do, because I do feel that there will be more communication. That's what I said. Let's start, putting some new things on the table to try and spark his interest again, not necessarily sort of asking him all the time what's wrong, because that's not helping the situation.
Yeah, that actually does happen often.
Yeah, and that's what I mean.
It's
becoming too repetitive. Yeah, but it's becoming too repetitive from your point of view, and that's understandable. You're concerned because you want to get to the bottom of it. He just sort of sees it, oh, here we go again. She still asked me the same questions and I'm not going to answer them. So, let's try a different approach. But I know once you make the decision to make some changes in your lives together as a couple, the marriage will rebound and, you'll go into a really good patch. And that's good. That's what we need to see. So I need to move on. Thank you, Kim, for your call. We're going to go to Amy in Lockport in New York. Are you there, Amy?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Amy. How can I help you tonight?
I was just calling to see if I could get some help with problems that are going on with my house in a kind of a lawsuit kind of thing.
So in which way with the house? Are you looking to sell it? Is it?
It had some work done on it that was kind of falsified, so I'm trying to go after the company, and it's not going in my favor for some reason.
Yeah, well, they're not listening. I think that's the major problem. They're not accepting or listening to the fact that there is major issues, that, you know, the work that you contracted and paid for wasn't, you know, finalised and finished to a standard that's acceptable. I don't think you'll find that this is the first time this company's been in hot water. I think you really do need to sort of, you know, gather all your information and maybe sort of threaten them that you're going to take it to somebody higher, like, you know, you're going to take it to the media or you're going to do something about it. We've got to get their attention that you're serious. At the moment, they're just looking at you as being a little old, you know, a little woman, and we can fob you off. And we don't need to be looking at that. I think you need to get a clear-cut plan of how you're going to deal with this. And look, you know, like there's many different avenues. I mean, a lot of times men think that women are stupid, and we're certainly not that. But I think if you put together a good enough proposal, these are the things that are wrong. I'm going to give you 30 days to come back to me with a satisfactory answer and a satisfactory solution of how this is going to be rectified, and that to a conclusion that we can both be happy with. Otherwise, I'm going to have to take the matter further. Now, you don't tell them what you're going to do as far as taking the matter further, but I think it's something that I would be certainly looking at. You know, use the power of social media and things like this day and age, because people have really like to sort of see when somebody's been, you know, had work done that's not right, because they start sort of telling their friends and so on and so on. It's amazing how companies will take notice of something like that that's been put out in social media because you haven't got a response. I mean, you give them 30 days to sort of come back to you. Then when they don't come back to you, send them another message or another email, something in writing, always put in writing that you've chosen to ignore my, you know, attempt to rectify that, you know, to have an amicable solution to this problem. You leave me no choice. I'm going to have to take the matter further. You know, I'm going to seek legal representation or whatever it is that you want to do. But I know that you can get a better answer out of this. I don't think this company has honoured the work that you've paid for, and I think they need to be fixing it up. But I'd also be looking into at the same time, is there any sort of governing body in your local area that you can take this complaint to, that, you know, is a place where, you know, when jobs haven't been done properly in building work or whatever, there must be somebody that you can take it to that's an independent situation that can look at what you've spent and what the job was, and maybe that's another angle to look at as well. But I do believe that you will get a satisfactory result out of this. The reason I asked at the beginning where you're looking at selling, because I still sort of feel, even once we get this sort of settled, I still don't know that you're going to feel as settled in this home as what you should. I think after all that's gone on, I think you'll make a decision then to put it on the market and move somewhere else. But that's further down the track. We need to deal with the immediate, and that's getting you satisfaction for the money that you've invested into making improvements in your home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's been going on for 7 months with this company.
Yeah,
and I've gotten nowhere. I've even gotten a lawyer and everything. So, and when they went over the contract, it basically said, like, you signed your death certificate with this company. So I just don't know if I should put any more money into going after them, or...
Oh, I think you need to. I think you need to look at other ways. Look at, is there other governing bodies that you can go to? You know, here in Australia, we have a Master Builders Association that you can go to and put a formal complaint in if something's wrong with repairs that you've had done to your home. There must be something in your local area that is equivalent to that, and I'd be sort of knocking on their door and seeing what avenue you've got then. And if that doesn't work, I'd start hitting social media, because people don't like to have their brand tarnished in a way like that, because, you know, you've got actual photos of things that aren't satisfactorily done.
And it's funny because they have lots of people against them on social media, and they just get bashed by the owner. The owner does not care because they already took their money. And that's what I've run into also with them. So
Yeah, but I think if there's enough groundswell, people do eventually have to take notice of that. And I still think, you're adding your name to a list and putting your stuff up there. It's recent, it's now. It's not like somebody else a month ago or 3 months ago. And, people do take notice of that. I mean, at the moment, they're just sort of saying, well, to hell with everybody. But it's going to change. I still believe that you'll get a satisfactory result out of this. I truly do.
Okay. And I always said I'm going to sell this house after because now it's tainted.
Yeah, well, I can understand that, but I think we need to get value for the money that you've invested into this home, and the repairs and things that you want it done need to be of a satisfactory level, and they're not at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, something needs to happen. Anyway, my love, we have to leave it there, Amy. I wish you well with all of that. So on next week's show, we'll have our Simply Tarot card of the week, our candle of the week, and we'll have our famous actor that we'll be looking into and a little glimpse around the universe. So whatever you're doing in this amazing globe of ours, and particularly for my Aussie friends, I hope you enjoy Australia Day on the 26th and throw a lamb chop on the barbie and eat some lamingtons and have a beer or two and just enjoy what Australia's got to offer. We're here in the middle of a huge heat wave here in Australia. So for all of our overseas friends that are freezing your little tushies off, please send us some of your cooler weather. Rain would be nice too. We're in a massive drought over here. But for our Australian friends, I hope you enjoy Australia Day, and I look forward to joining you again all next week. Bye for now.